Hello ladies and gentle ladies, welcome back to another Industria development stream. Today we are going to be doing the big thing of updating to 1.21.11. So this is going to be a pain in the butt. I hope you guys are ready for the screams of pain and suffering that we're going to go through today. I do just need to finish a couple things with this. So everyone is up to date, is the multi-block designer, which is used for me to design multi-block. So not for other people to use. It's not going to be for the player. It's purely for me to design the multi-blocks. So I built out this whole UI. Here you got the palette here, which assigns the characters to these different things, and you can add tags, you can add states, you can add blocks. We can export it, which also exports kind of as a JSON to the clipboard. It's not actually technically the correct JSON, but that's fine. I can come back to that. I can choose to then select a block, and I can change the character. I can also change the name of these here as well. And then I can edit the port rules. Now, this is actually not quite implemented yet. I've just been doing this in the past, like, 15 minutes. So, yeah, I haven't done this, but we're also not going to do this today. Because I just want to get updated to 1.21.11 and probably just come back to this later. Rather than do that right now. Because I just want to get updated, and then kind of from there I can start doing more actually useful things. So yeah, I'm going to push this to GitHub, which is going to be a honker of a change because I've been lazy. So yeah, there is a lot of changes. I don't even know how to start trying to describe them. I've got 779 changed files, and that is because of I changed all of the line endings to be LF instead of CRLF, so it literally thinks I've changed the entire project, which I kind of have, but also not really, which is a whole thing. Fix your posture, bro. I'm literally sat upright. What do you mean? What do you mean, bro? I'm literally sat upright. Unless you want me to do this, I'm not going to sit back in my chair. Fine, I will sit back in my chair. But like, I'm literally sat upright. I don't know what you want from me. No, it is not. It is literally not. Bro is on some shit. My neck is literally upright. So I think you may need to buy some glasses. Yeah. Right, so we're gonna push this anyways. Yeah, as I say, I don't know what to call this. I've kind of done the entire thing without committing somehow. Honestly, I'm just gonna name it, I don't even know. I mean, if I try to get Copilot to do it, it will probably just think it's an initial commit. So let's go to the screen, I guess, and just have a look. I mean, I have literally changed everything. Like not this one. This screen class is now over 1,000 lines. We're now on, give it a second, we're on 1,026 lines, and that is disregarding this screen, which is on 237, and that's also disregarding this screen, which is on 540, and this screen, which is on 753, and this screen, which is on 516. And that's also disregarding the entirety of the fake world, and also the widgets as well, which I've added a bunch of. I've got the world widget, which is on 117. We got this one, which is on 251. We've got this, which is on 123. We've got this, which is on 159. This is on 23. That's not too bad. And then this one, we're down to 271. So, yeah, that's crazy. All my professional commits are named Blip Bloop and no one complains so far. Yeah, I'm just trying to like give somewhat reasonable commit names, just so that if I ever want to come back and look through the commits, I at least have a rough idea of what I did. Let me quickly put my phone on silent. Thank you, phone, for reminding me that you're not on silent. Okay, there we go, that's done. Oh, actually, I probably should just quickly do that and also quickly do that as well. Okay, so that's fine. Right, so yes, now we're going to write a commit message. So I'm just going to name it rewrite and improve entire multi-block designer screen. Music stopped? No, the music is very much still running. Rewrite and improve entire multi-block designer screen. Now that's kind of over the character limit, which is a bit of a pain in the bum. So let's try shorten it if possible. I'm just going to get rid of the word entire, and actually I can then add back the and. Because I don't really like using ampersand. That's fine, I think. Rewrite and improve entire multi-block designer screen is good enough. Now, it says 779 files changed, but when I actually commit that, it will go down to like 20 something, I imagine. We will see in a second. If we go history, I assume it says here, yeah, 39. Okay, so that's not too bad. And then basically we're going to commit that. Hello Aleatoria, welcome to the stream. Are you using JSON models for your multi-blocks? Interesting you mentioned that, because that is actually the one thing I haven't done yet. I haven't done anything relating to the rendering side of the multi-blocks. I don't know exactly how that's going to work, to be honest. I've kind of got all the functionality of a multi-block. I just don't have any abstract rendering code, I don't think. If I go into renderer block, I mean, I do have like this one, which this is just the example one, so this isn't really relevant. I also have but this is the designer. Yeah, so I don't actually have like an abstract multi-block renderer, but I do have my kind of base class, which is the Industria block entity renderer, which kind of does everything I would need a multi-block renderer to do. I mean, I probably could use JSON models. I suppose that wouldn't be too tricky. But then also all of the multi-blocks, like 99% of the multi-blocks are probably going to be animated. So I don't know if they will be. But as I said, in this stream, I want to update to 1.21.11. And then my plan is I'm then going to come back to this once it's ported to 1.21.11, because then I don't have to worry about everything I write being rewritten in, a few weeks' time or whatever. So, not that I think it will. I don't think screens have changed. I believe they haven't changed, but I'm not 100% sure. I suspect what will break, it almost certainly will break, is going to be, I've got to find it. Here it is. The fake world thing. I reckon this is all going to break. I suspect like the concept of frame buffers probably won't even exist as an abstract. I mean, maybe they will. Like, you kind of need to always have frame buffers. But it probably won't function the same way. Likewise, I suspect things like this just aren't going to exist. I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be one heck of a thing. I suspect Codex is going to hopefully do a little bit of it for me. But we'll see. I mean, it depends how big of a change everything is going to be. We'll see. So yeah, let's go ahead and merge this into main. Which I probably can do that with command line, actually. Though it kind of is a little bit scary because I feel like I'm going to break something, but I think I just need to merge origin / main. I think. I'm actually not confident that that will work. Let me just double quick check this is going to do what I want. Gonna quickly check that this is correct. I'm pretty sure it is, but I'm not 100% certain because I don't use command line that often. Oh, right. I think we need to do this the other way around, right? I think we need to check out main and then git merge. What is it called? Multi-block rewrite. I actually need to get rid of the old multi-blocks at some point. That's going to be a whole thing. Yeah, so that might have worked. If I go into git, what has that done? So we've got 9 commits that we can push. I suspect that has worked then. So if I go ahead and push those, the best way for me to see if this has worked is to look on Discord and see what has come through in the Industria channel. Yeah, that seems to have worked correctly. So I consider that a win. Yeah, so now we have to update. Now I'm kind of hoping Spino comes in to the stream, because if I recall correctly, and I may be incorrect, I think he's done some work already into updating Industria for me, I think. So if that is true, that would be very good to know about. I'm just gonna quickly ping him on Discord and just ask. He may be busy. I'm just gonna check. Okay, let me see if he is available, and if he is what he says, and we'll see. Okay, apparently he's done some work in updating to 1.21.9. I don't actually remember what changed between 9 and 11. So 10, I think, was a bug fix, I think? Or was it? No, maybe 11 was a bug fix. No, I don't think it... No, 11 wasn't a bug fix. It was 10. 10 was a bug fix, right? I believe. Is that correct? Yeah, 11 is Mounts of Mayhem. 10, I think, was... Yeah, 10's a hotfix. And then 9 was the Copper Age. Currently, we're on 1.21.8, which was also a hotfix for 1.21.7. Which 7 was also a hotfix, apparently. Which was for 6, which was Chase the Skies, which is the Ghast shenanigans. So best place to start, we're gonna probably look at... Okay, let's first of all actually go update some numbers. Let me actually also ask, because I guess if we can start with, if Spino's updated it to 1.21.9, if we can start there, then we can probably go incrementally from there to 11. With 10 being a hotfix, it'll basically be going from, in a way, 9 to 10. So that'd be ideal. I'm also just going to double check that things still compile on the main branch, because sometimes merging across things could get lost. I don't know. Just worth having a double check. It is compiling, so that's a good start. I don't think anything should have got lost. I think it's usually when I do something wrong that things start to break. But I don't think I've done anything wrong this time. Just check the same world loads and everything's going to be in here. Yeah, okay. As expected, everything is fine. Yeah. If I do that... Yeah, that's still there. Okay, fantastic. So that's basically all I wanted to check there. Now, updating to 1.21.9, I'm quickly going to have a look. Best place to start, it will be the Fabric blog, as they host the update guides. So, Fabric for 1.21.9 and 10. So, okay, so developers should use Loom 1.11, apparently, and latest stable, which is 0.17.2. So, let's have a look. We're on 1.11, so that's fine, and 0.17.2 is what we have as well. Okay, as expected. So in that case, yeah, okay. In that case, what we will do is we'll update some numbers. So let's start here with 1.21.10, and I assume yarn also exists for 1.21.10. Later, we are going to update to Mojmap though. But for now, let's stick with yarn until we're up to date, because otherwise, you know, if we try and change mappings at the same time as updating, it would just go catastrophically wrong. So we want to avoid doing that as much as possible. So let's look up yarn for 1.20. Why am I Googling this, bro? I literally made a Discord bot that's specifically for this. If I go get latest... Wait, do I not have latest yarn? I don't have latest yarn. Really? Okay, never mind. I thought I added yarn to Turtybot, but I guess I didn't. That's good to know. In that case, I'm going to go to the yarn GitHub, because I think that's probably the best place to look. And if I go, did they not have don't they do it by tags? Yeah, they do it by tags. I thought so. So let me just go back and have a look. So 1.21.10 RC build number 2. Okay, that's not the one I'm looking for. So it looks like the latest is build number 3. So go build 3. Okay, that's fine then. Okay. Now let me have a look. What's kind of next after that? So okay, so there are some name changes across Minecraft apparently. Let's see if I can actually find those on the Git. Okay, that's way too complicated to try and figure that out. Okay. What we will do, actually, what I'm gonna do real quick, I'm just gonna ping Spino again. And I'm just gonna see if he can PR. Wait, has he already made a PR for it? I should probably check, shouldn't I? I don't recall ever seeing one, but I could be misremembering. There is a pull request. Oh, that's Basty's thing. Oh yeah, that's all gonna break. Yeah. Okay, Basty's thing's all gonna break. I meant to ping. Let me try again. I meant to ping it, but I didn't. There you go. There you go. If not, if you can't PR it, then we'll obviously have to. I mean, we can actually, 1 second. What we can try, I have an idea. I have a big brain moment. He has a fork, so I can actually just PR it myself. Here we go. Oh, he started with a 1.21.10 port. Interesting. Oh, but wait, I'm so confused. All of his ports are like, they're all 9 commits behind. Oh, I see, except I'm so confused. So 9 commits, 4 commits ahead. Okay, let me have a look and see everything that's changed here. The other thing I need to do is actually find the latest Fabric API version. Now, I can use TurdyBot for this one, though. So let me just do latest Fabric. Oh, I don't have latest Fabric for a specific Minecraft version. I really need to update TurdyBot at some point. Fabric API versions 1.21.10. Luckily, I can use Switchboard for this, since I have that at hand right now. That would be the latest. So, where are we? There we go. Boom. Okay. I don't know if we can reload because I'm not sure with the dependencies here. Let's go. Let me just look up Tech Reborn Energy and see what the latest version of that is on. Okay, so yeah, 4.2.0 is the latest for that. Mod menu version, it's going to need to be bumped a ton, I imagine. So I'm going to try and find the latest for 1.21.10 here. Game version 1.21.10. So we're talking 16.0.0-RC.1. And then Satan, I'm actually just going to remove that, to be honest, because we don't have it right now, and I don't suspect we're going to get it anytime soon. So let's get rid of that. Okay, let's reload and see all of the catastrophic errors that start to occur. No, why I have definitely not done it already. We are just starting. I want to see the Gradle build. Oh, I see it's downloading everything. Yeah, this is going to take a minute. Just give it a second. Okay, so we're going to have a ton of issues here. Okay, it looks like he actually didn't finish the PR. It's not up to date with, like, some things are just commented out. Ooh. So yeah, we'll have to have a look at that in a minute. Okay, this is gonna take a minute to do this. I probably should have done this pre-stream, but I didn't really have time. Oh god, okay. We're already getting some issues. I suspected there would be some issues. We're gonna encounter a lot of issues today. It's going to be one of those streams that we feel like we're not making any progress, and in reality we're not really making any progress. We're just dealing with Minecraft being a pain in the butt. Okay, so that's pretty much done. Yep, that's done. Okay, should we just build the project and see what starts to error? Should we see how many errors we have first of all? If we open the problems tab, let's just see. Isn't there a way to... Okay, let's just build project then. See what happens. See how many errors we have. It's not going to be perfectly accurate. I suspect there's a lot of errors, if I would be correct. 82. That's not actually too bad. I expected a lot worse, I will say. A lot of these are just private access as well. Like, a lot of them. Like, a significant number of them, which could actually be why we don't have so many errors. Okay, so let's start with this one, since this is the one it brought us to. So apparently get comparator output doesn't exist anymore. Now, is that because it's been renamed? No, it's because it doesn't take in any parameters anymore. Oh, because it's turned into a try function. Interesting. Very, very interesting. What is the integer? Wait, no, it hasn't turned. Wait, what? What is this? Okay, let me get rid of this. Oh, I see. It's returning the... We have a field for the comparator output. Get comparator output. So this is the one we want. So let's just return this. It also now takes in a direction, apparently. So let's do that. And we're going to have to change this to a quad function. I assume that's a thing that I have. No. I think it's called a function 4. Yes. Now that takes in an integer there. Oh, because that's... Wait, 1 second. What is this? So that returns an integer. I see. Okay, so we're also going to need to take in a direction then. And then that returns, I assume, the integer. Yes. Okay, so that's fine. We can just make everything that references that a function 4. So we'll do that. And we'll take in direction. And I assume... Okay, that just uses that. That's fine. I don't care about that. Let's also put that down there as well. Okay. That's not too bad if that's kind of the first error we have. I imagine that kind of solves a lot of the issues. We can fix this here as well. That's not being used anyways anywhere, so that's not too big of a deal. Let's just pass direction in. Boom. First error solved. Second error is just going to be replacing all of these with methods. So that shouldn't be too bad, I imagine. Let's go in here. So this is now get entity world, apparently, which isn't too bad either. That's fine. Is client. Okay. Is there a way to fix all of these, maybe? I wonder. Replace with getter. I see, I can apply that in all in file, but I can't apply that like across the entire project, which is a real shame, I will say. Just do a build again. There isn't going to be it'll kind of be a pain to do because they're project errors and not file errors. We might have better luck rather than following that. It's just going top to bottom in here. So like block we can see doesn't have any issues, so that's fine. It looks like actually the only issues, oh no, they do have issues, it's just not showing up. Interesting. That's kind of a pain in the bum then, isn't it? Okay, in that case what we'll do entity world, and then do entity world. I'm just going to copy this because we're going to use this a lot. That just needs to be get entity world, and then this needs to be get entity world. That's fine. I actually don't think that mix-in even works, but we can come back to it. So is client, all good. Is client. Okay. I assume we can probably regular expression this. So if we look for world is client, and then we want instances where it's not followed by curly braces, right? Is there a way to do that? I honestly have kind of forgotten everything I learnt about regular expressions. I'm pretty sure you can do a look ahead, but I don't remember if you can do negative look aheads. If you can negate a look ahead. Let's see. Okay, so apparently you can do question mark not, and then like that. If I do, I suppose that. Maybe it needs to be, maybe this entire thing needs to be in there. Has that worked? Yes, it has. So now we can just replace that with world.isClient, like that, and replace all. Replace. Okay. That's actually fixed a lot of the issues. So let's do another build and let's see what it comes up with now. It actually hasn't fixed, I see, because some of them aren't like that. Okay. Interesting. So what we can try and do as well, if we do this again, I can't even remember. There you go. So we can just get rid of that and just do isClient. And this, you can see there's still tons in here. So we can just do like that. And actually get rid of the dot completely, even. Because I don't think we need that. Okay. And then all we're going to do... Oh, wait, this is also in the Java files. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. Replace. Okay, let me delete the Java source code so we don't get confused. Okay, there we go. And yeah, that's going to cause some issues, but that's fine. We don't care about that. Okay, let's see where we're at now. So, okay, so now we have the issue of get world. So I think we should just do the same thing again. Pretty much the same thing again. So this time we just want to do get world like that, and then we want to replace that with get entity world. And we want to replace. Okay, that should fix a bunch of issues. What's this one? So get pause. Interesting. So that's been replaced with entity pause. Now, that's interesting. Yeah, I think these are all issues I had previously, so those are fine. Okay, let's do another build and see. I assume we're going to have a lot of those pause ones. And in fact here, like this one hasn't actually been replaced, so we're going to have a couple of those as well. Okay, maybe we shouldn't have done that get entity world shenanigans, because that it doesn't like that. Yeah, a lot of those haven't actually worked, but that's fine. I'd rather go through these, do those manually, because that's going to be less work than it's actually, in most cases. I think I would be wrong. I think actually I probably should have done it the other way around. Is there an easier way to do this? Let me move this to my other monitor so you guys, I mean, you guys won't be able to see it, but it just means that I can look at this without having to deal with the scrolling stuff and all that. There actually isn't too many here. But I don't know if like these are just specific errors that it's showing. I don't suspect these are all the errors in the entire project. I do suspect, though, most of the errors are going to come from the client package, and right now we haven't even compiled the client package. So, you know, we'll see kind of what that does and go from there when we get to that. So yeah, fix all of these. Definitely shouldn't have done that find replace, because I reckon there was significantly less previously. But oh well. How was I to know? I wasn't. Hindsight is a glorious thing, as they say. Okay, we are making pretty good progress though. There really aren't that many left. There's about like 7 or so left. And these are all just copy pastes. So that's pretty good. At some point we are going to get to complete rewrites, I suspect. But as I say, I'm pretty sure most of that will be in the client, which is actually kind of the worst place to have rewrites, because that means we have to do a bunch of rendering shenanigans, which, yeah, it's not going to be fun. But we're done. So that's actually all of the errors, I believe, in the entirety of the main source set. I'm just letting it run compile Java again. Yeah, that is the main source set done. So now we have client. Now, here we have 100 errors, and a lot of these are not going to be as simple as we would hope. So, yeah, I really wish IntelliJ would show me all of the friggin' files that have errors, but it's not doing it for some reason. Don't know why. Isn't there a way to turn on like project-wide analysis? One second, I'm actually going to bring this window out rather than the build window. I'll leave the build window here, and then I will hide the build window. And then I'm going to keep the problems window on my other monitor, because I think that's going to be more benefit. Now, isn't there a way to... There's definitely a way to do project-wide errors. Is that an ultimate feature? Maybe that's an ultimate feature. Okay, in that case, we'll just have to figure it out. So, first of all, it's saying that register does not exist. Now, I think that's actually because of the renderers. Yes, okay, so all of these errors about register is an issue with the renderers, not an issue with that. We are still going to have a couple of these, so that's going to be still get entity. No, that's actually just going to be get world. That's going to be get world as well. Okay, yeah, that's fine. And then that as well, and then that is just item renderer, so that's a lot easier. Oh, even easier. Lovely. Okay, and that is also that. Now, oh, okay, we'll come back to that one. That one's gonna be a whole thing. This, yeah, we'll come back to that. We'll come back to render state. That is going to be an entire, a big thing, which we'll leave out for now. Once again, here, this is going to be the same thing. So we're going to do item renderer. We'll qualify static. Now, I don't actually know if qualifying static is what we want to be doing. I'm curious why, like, why does this even provide... let's also decompile the sources, actually. That will help us a little bit here. Okay. This shouldn't take too long for it. Well, actually, it is going to take a while, because they're all going to be outdated. Even though this says there's only 28 that have changed, but I don't think that's true. I think it is straight up lying. So here we go. Let's just let it do that, and hopefully it will give us the sources for this, which it has. I'm just curious why it's given us the item renderer if it doesn't have any instance methods anymore. Like, all of these are static methods, so why does it even give you access to an item renderer instance? That doesn't make any sense. But whatever. It's a classic Mojang moment, really. I don't think there's anything much else going on with that. So that's get world, and that's also get world. That's going to be get world. Okay. I'm going to have to fix all of those comments. But this is also one of those things that Basti's going to come back and, or hopefully sometime in the future, Basti's going to come back and sort some of this out. So yeah, let me build the project again. Now that obviously I did the sources, it's broken a thing. So here we have world renderer events is gone. So I wonder if that's now under a V2. No, it is not. It is just gone. I'm going to get rid of it and hopefully it will just import itself. Okay, so it's just moved. That's fine. Category, yes, I did see this in the doc, or in the blog post. So categories are now like a thing rather than just a string. So I don't know if we want to deal with that now. I think let's try and deal with the easy stuff first. Yeah, so that one, obviously, we'll worry about that later. Let's just do all of these world ones. Get those out of the way. And then we'll go from there. That's going to be the easiest way to do this. So objects cannot be... yeah, we'll come back to that one as well. That's that one, which we've solved. That's that one. Wrong type number of args. So what is... I'm curious, actually. What does this require now? Oh, so it requires the state. Okay. Yeah, as I say, we're going to come back to the state. I don't think it'll be too much work to do the state. But it is going to be a pain. So we'll come back to that. Okay, this is just these ones again. What I'm going to do, actually... is I'm gonna replace these. Or am I? There actually isn't that many of them. Okay, I'm gonna open them in the find window, actually. And then that just allows us to easily go to all of them, like now, rather than... Let's do item renderer. Render item. Boom. Only problem is that doesn't import them, which is a little bit of a annoying. Bit of an annoyance. I am curious, what does this require now? So it requires an item display context. And it doesn't want the stack anymore. It wants an int array of tints and a list of baked quads and some other stuff. So it also wants the render layer. And it also wants the glint. Interesting. Yeah, okay. I suspect item display context. Oh no, that's still an enum. Actually. Let's also decompile the common sources whilst we're here. That just means that if we ever need to jump to any of those, that's not going to get in our way. It will be reasonable. All of these need to be get world like that, world like that. Okay, now it's just indexing them, so I have to give this a second. Okay, we're done. Nice. So yeah, this needs to be get world. Any others? Yeah, one here. So this needs to be get world as well. Okay. Then we have this one. We're gonna plonk in there. Boom. Once again, this needs to be get world. Hopefully we can figure out what the issue with this one is, and then we can just apply that to all of them, is what I'm really hoping. Which we should be able to do. I don't see why that wouldn't be the case. Once again, we'll have to find out when we get there. But I mean, this is one of those things that eventually So at some point down the line, I'm going to want to kind of abstract out so that I can just have an easy way to just render an item and not have to change it in every single update, basically. But yeah, obviously that's going to be... I mean, hopefully there will be a time in the very short future where hopefully we don't have to worry about this at all. Because obviously once they're done with the rendering rewrites, in theory, there shouldn't be any more major rendering rewrites they have to do, at least not for a very long time. So obviously that's the ideal world, but we don't live in the ideal world, unfortunately. So, yeah, we will see. Apparently I've missed some. Don't exactly know how that's happened, but sure. Have I missed any others? Yes. So some of them are still hiding. Also some down here. I assume this is... So this is the entity render dispatcher. Ooh, that doesn't exist anymore. I assume it's in game options. No. That's... Is it really not in game options? A smooth camera, started cleanly, sync chunk, da 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 da. No, no, no. Spectator app? No, I don't think so. Use key. Maybe look for like bounding box. Debug. Entity. What else would it be? Interesting. We'll come back to that one. We're gonna have to look at vanilla and see what vanilla does with that. It must still exist. It's just a matter of where they've put it. They've obviously put it somewhere else. How's it going? So far, doesn't seem to be going too bad. But you know, time will tell. We haven't got to the main big ones yet. We're just doing the small ones at the moment. That apparently doesn't exist, but I assume that's an import change rather than like a... what does this now require? So that requires the camera and the entity. I can just do that. And this apparently doesn't exist. Interesting. So some things have been removed. Oh, there's the shadows one. Dot get value. But the hitboxes one must be in there somewhere. Its outline? No. Yeah, I don't know where it is. Oh, that's get value. I see. Is there a way to set the value? False. Problem is that's I don't think we need that, actually. I think we can ignore that. I don't know what this is. What does this return? Block entity render manager. Block entity render manager. And rename that to block entity render manager. Okay, configure that. apparently doesn't take the world in anymore, which is interesting, I will say. Well, strange things have changed. I'm not sure why they've changed. So this now takes in a render state instead of the block entity. That's fine. I think we can actually get the state. Now, I don't exactly know how the state stuff works as of right now, so I can't do that yet, but that will need to be changed when I figure that out. This also requires the state, and it requires some other stuff as well. This does not... I don't know what this is. I don't remember. This, I think, is the player's rotation. So, I don't know if maybe it's camera.get rotation is what we want. I suspect so. This needs to be the entity pause. Okay. Likewise with this entity pause, and likewise with this. That's fine. That's fine. Okay, these are going to be the exact same thing, so those aren't too bad. And last one is the drawbox method. Okay. I think this is just matrices dot peak, but I'm not sure. We'll come back to those because I'm not 100% sure right now, and I want to be 100% sure when I change it. So actually, this is all of the scene stuff, and this doesn't look too bad. We do have some other scene classes, though, that possibly could be an issue. But we'll figure those out in a second. Let's do this one first. So that's just a change in import. Render context. Interesting. That's probably an issue with the superclass. Am I correct in saying that? Yes, I am. There we go. Don't know why I did it like that. It's a bit weird, but sure. Okay, this is just going to be get world. That's fine. And then we'll come back to render state, as I said. Okay, this one's scaring me a little bit. Well, actually, this one doesn't really matter because the block entity item renderers didn't work from when I last updated. So, yeah, that's going to be hell, but we'll figure it out later. As I say, going to get the easy ones done first. Ignore that one. Ignore that one. We have pause, I assume. Ooh. Okay. Yeah, so... I think we can maybe just get the world X. I think we'll come back to that one because I'm not 100% sure. But I think we can just use the world X and then we don't even have to divide by 16. Or maybe it's the other way round. I mean, if we have a look in here, we can probably see what this method does. Yeah, so that divides by 16. So actually, in fact, we can just use that world X. The only thing is, I don't know what this second parameter of div is. Not sure. Obviously, you can see here it takes in the v0, which is the... Oh, maybe that's where it puts it? Possibly. Okay, I think we will come back to this because we're going to have to look into exactly what's changed with the vertice stuff. Okay, so this doesn't exist anymore. Where's the north default horizontal rotation? Where's the north default horizontal rotatable? Okay, basically the same, not that much different. That's fine, actually. That's it for the model data gen, so that's really good. I didn't want to have to change all of this pipe stuff, so actually that's fantastic. I consider that a major win. Let's see what the next one is, so that we've already fixed that one. Okay. Yeah, this can actually go, but once again we'll come back to that later. I just want to get the easy ones done first. That one's fine. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Let's just go and have a look. Okay, this one. That's fine. Okay, this one. Yeah, once again, we're gonna come back to this one. Yeah, nothing else to say about that. We'll come back to it. That's fine. Okay, we have issues in here because we need to import the correct thing. But that's now matrices. That's now, I assume camera does exist in here. Maybe game renderer.get camera. There you go. I don't suppose we can actually just get that entity, can we? Don't think so. Can't just get that directly, unfortunately. We'll come back to that one, and this is going to be camera.get rotation. So that's fine. That's fine. Yep. Fine. We keep going. What's this? That's fine. Come back to it. Okay, that's all of the trivial ones, I believe, but I'm just going to do another build just to make sure that that's all of the trivial ones. Okay. Okay, there actually are some more errors that have popped up now. Looks like it's maxing out at 100 errors. I don't know why that would be the case, but okay, so the first issue is this one. So apparently this just takes in a click. Click, Boolean, doubled. And then you just pass that down. Interesting. I suppose. Sure. Is it, I assume a click is just... It also takes in mouse input. Oh. Interesting. Very interesting. It's not a terrible idea, I suppose. Okay, we do have a lot of issues with the screen stuff. I assume this is all going to be the same. I assume, like, this is obviously going to take in a click, Boolean, doubled. Let's just do click. Okay, let's do that. That's going to need to be X, that's going to need to be Y, and then int button is equal click.button. Here I'm just going to quickly do glfw.mousebutton1. Don't know why it wasn't that previously. And then that's just going to take down the click and double. Okay, this is going to be exactly the same. So this is going to take a click, and Boolean. Oh, I guess that isn't going to take a Boolean in. Yes, that's correct. Okay, so we can do the same thing here. So click dot button is equal to glfw dot mouse button 1, and then just pass both of those down. Mouse dragged, I assume. I don't know actually. Let's have a look. So that takes in a click and an offset. Interesting. So I assume the offset is basically the delta. Would be my assumption. So we can do click dot button is equal mouse button 1, and then mouse Y will be click dot Y, and then this will just take in all of those. That's fine. Okay, so context dot draw border does not exist anymore. Interesting. It's presumably now draw selection. Would that be correct? Draw stroke to rectangle, maybe? I'm gonna assume it's draw stroke to rectangle. Yeah, I'm gonna say it's draw stroke to rectangle. That makes sense. So this is gonna be the same. Okay. Next is yeah, that's fine. Okay, so the next one, no, I want to see if there's any other screen related ones before we move on to the more complex things. And there should be more screen related ones. Okay, it's not showing them, but there are more screen related ones. It's just saying that there's only 10 or only 100 errors for some reason. I don't know why it's doing that. I suspect that's probably an ultimate thing, unfortunately. Okay, so okay, I think we need to move on to the renderers, unfortunately, which is going to be the real kicker. So let's start with the model classes, because apparently these are pretty simple changes. So apparently these just need to become voids, which should be very simple change. So let's go ahead and do that in all of these. And just make these become void, as that fixes all of these. So that will also fix a bunch of errors elsewhere, I suspect. Okay. Boom. This one, these are nice and simple ones. I wish they were all like this. That is very much wishful thinking, though. It'd be lovely if someday Mojang wrote some friggin' migration scripts for modders. That'd be crazy useful. But obviously that would never happen. Okay, so after that, the simple drill head model apparently has some other issues with it. So I don't see any issues with it, but Spino has made some fairly significant changes with it. So That's fine. Yeah, okay, so this, for example, needs to become wildcard, and this needs to become an ordered render command queue. Let's just rename this to model, can we? We cannot. Okay. Never mind. We'll not do that then. Okay. So then int light, int overlay. That's the same. So not too bad. Okay, then this is the model. That's fine. And then that's model.getDrillParts. That's fine. The only other thing is model.render apparently is yeeted. And apparently that's now q.submitModel. And then that passes in the model. It needs to pass in null, which is the state, because it doesn't require any state. Then it passes in the render layer, which I don't have because I need to take that in as a parameter, apparently. So where's that? Is that... All right, the vertex consumer is actually gone. Yes, the vertex consumer is gone. And instead, we have a render layer. Is it torture? It is about to be. Yes. We are about to get to the torturous parts. Okay, then it also wants light. It wants overlay. It wants -1 and null. That doesn't like that because I'm missing the matrices. Hello Lone Wolf, welcome to the stream. Where is this called? I don't know. We'll figure that out in a minute. Okay. So model. Okay, so the next issue is in the drill head registry. So let's head in there. Drill head registry. Okay, so in here we have to change this to that. Okay. This also needs to do the same. I suspect we're going to have a lot of changes in here. Why does model have generics now? Basically because model now has a render state, which you pass in as the thing, basically. So yeah, that's why, because it has the type of the state. Which I think I'm understanding correctly, but I could also be completely wrong. Who knows? Okay, let me just change this render function. So now pass through data. So like here, for example, previously you would have the actual block entity, but now you would use the render state. Apparently, we're still actually using the block entity in this specific case. At least that's what Spino has done. And I trust that he has probably got that correct, but we can have a look in a minute, of course, because we haven't got to where this is actually used yet, which when we do, we'll figure out what that problem is. Okay, so the next one is the arc furnace. Now this one's nice and simple because I haven't actually done any work on it yet. So, oh, that's why I was doing the multi-block system. It's because of this arc furnace. That's why. It is still erroring though. Interesting. I suspect that's probably an issue with this though, rather than... Yeah, that's just because that hasn't been put into the superclass. That's fine. That's not an error. Well, it is an error, but it's not an issue. Okay, next one is going to be in the centrifugal concentrator. So let's head into there, centrifugal concentrator. Okay, and we just need to fix, first of all, the render method. Let's do that. Yeah, I suspect this isn't going to work because we're still passing in the block entity here. So that's probably going to have to change it in a minute, but we'll see. Okay, Spino has got rid of some weird things here. He's changed this to just this. I don't think that's correct. I don't think we want to do that. So yeah, let's not do that. Okay, next one is this. So render method is basically gone now. We just instead submit it to the queue, which kind of makes sense. I kind of get that. This also just becomes the queue. Obviously, we'll have to fix that in here. So that now just has a queue instead of the vertex consumer provider, like that. Okay, and then I assume a lot of this is changed. So the vertex consumer is just apparently gone, just doesn't exist anymore. And he's not using. So here, he's not using the entity.get world. I assume that's because the entity will be gone. Presumably. Yeah, because basically what we're going to have to do at some point is replace this entity here with a state. So we're not going to be able to actually use anything that references the entity. It will have to come from the state rather than from the entity. So like entity.getPos, we won't be able to do that, but what we will have is we'll have states.getPos. Likewise in here, for example, the bowl rotation, this will have to grab that from the actual state that's passed in. Same with the RPM here, same with the max progress, same with the progress. All of that, that's going to be passed in through the state rather than from the entity. If I'm understanding correctly, which I think I am. I think that's how that works. I see. Actually, Spino has made this a little bit better, so that just goes now in the else statement. So that now just becomes 4/16, like that. This will become state. .get time. I don't think that's actually correct. I don't think that will be the state. I think that will just have to. That will have to come from this, right? Yeah, I think so. Other thing we can do is we can just do world is equal that, and then from there we can just directly just pass world in there, and then we can do that here as well, which kind of makes that a little bit easier to use. There you go. It obviously is a little bit more concise doing it this way, but that's just how it is. So I'm just going to copy exactly what Spino's done for these four. going to put those in. But that's just submitting a custom. So apparently that just lets you use the vertex consumers. So that's nice. And then for entity, for the item renderer, I mean, now this also is going to be staked.get input inventory.get stacking slot 0. I think this is one of the things that Basti is going to come and do at some point. So that will be interesting. Interesting. So I don't know how Spino has managed to do this, because he's just done this.context.item renderer, .render above, but that doesn't exist. So I don't entirely know how that's going to work. I do know this will need to become the queue, and this will need to become the world, and then we also need to have the light and the overlay, like that. And then apparently there's a null here, which is the display context, so that's not like that then. So then what's the second parameter? So the second parameter is then the matrices. Then it's the vertex consumers. I thought that was gone. Is it not gone? It's still in here? No. Interesting. I wonder if maybe it's actually q.submit item or something. Yeah. There it is. It's here. So we can do q.submit item, and then we can just pass those directly in here, I believe. So that'll take the matrices, then it'll take the item display context, which I believe before was none. Then it's going to take the light, then it's going to take the overlay, then it's going to take the outline colors. I don't know what that is. Our best bet probably is just to do a find usages of this and see what vanilla does. And have a look. So it looks like vanilla doesn't use that, apparently. Interesting. How does vanilla not use that? They must use then this one. If we find usages of that, maybe? That doesn't seem to be used at all. Huh. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay. Okay, maybe we can just I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I need to find usages of this. So that's called in here. No, that's called in here. So it's, I assume it's because Fabric's mixing it. Is why I probably can't find it. So I don't know what I need to put in here. Like, do I just put 0, maybe? Like that? And then what does it want? It wants a list of baked quads? How the fuck do I give it a list of baked quads? This can't be how you're meant to do this. It can't be. So find usages. Where is that done that in? Is doing it in all places. Yeah, so what Fabric has obviously done is Fabric has mixed it. Now this here has light overlay, and then this dot hints, this dot quads, render layer, and glint. So this is inside of a item render state dot layer render state. Now I don't know, like, how is this used? Maybe this is being used in many places. I don't know. Okay, what vanilla blocks render items? Can anyone think of any? Are there any vanilla blocks or entities even that render items in the world? Can't think of any. I'm trying to think, is there any that do that? I don't actually think there is. And maybe I should look at, like, the entity renderer. Like, if I look at maybe maybe like a zombie entity renderer. So this extends a zombie base entity renderer, which extends a biped entity renderer, which extends an ageable mob entity renderer. Okay, so I think it's probably the biped one that presumably somewhere renders the item in the hand. Okay, let's just find usages of the active hand, maybe. So item stack, and then it does item model resolver dot update for living entity. So that's an update render state. Interesting. Okay, but how does it actually render it? Player held item feature renderer. So it does super.render item. Interesting. So it has an item render state, and then it calls render. An entity state outline color. Right. So item render state, huh? Right. Right. Okay. Interesting. So we need an item render state. And presumably that's something that the block entity can have, right? Or the renderer can have. So if the renderer takes in a render state, maybe the type of that render state needs to extend, or I'm not sure if it's extend or implement. I don't know if it's an interface or a class, but it needs to inherit item render state. So therefore if we go back into this again real quick, into here, what does it do? It does super.render item. So what does this do? So this does item render state dot render. Okay, and that takes in a couple things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that, and in here, what we can do is we can do state.render. That will take in the Q, the light, and then it will take the outline color, which presumably also comes from the state, I imagine. Or maybe it's just -1, I don't know. But I think that's basically how that should work, if I understand correctly. I think so. And then that adds a particle, that's fine. Yeah, obviously we'll have to come back to that because the state isn't going to work right now. Or should we just try and get the state working for one of them? Maybe we should. And then we know what we're doing. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. Because otherwise we're just going to face a bunch of issues and not really know the best way to fix them. So yeah, let's do that. Okay, I'm going to bring up the all of the render stuff. The Fabric blog actually doesn't seem to mention render states. Unless I'm crazy. Rendering. Most places now use block entities now use ordered render command queue. Okay, so interesting. So apparently it can just take in a block entity render state. Render state, which is a Fabric render state, right? So I think we need to like inherit from that. I don't imagine, like if I just do there, rename that to state. Yeah, so obviously that doesn't work, right? In fact, that gives us a ton of issues. Right, so this then needs to take that in. So this needs to take in S extends block entity render block entity render state, like that. And then the onRender method will need to take in the S, which is going to be the state. Okay, and then this will be the block entity render state. This will also no longer take in the vertex consumers. It will instead take in you know what I should do to make this a little bit simpler for myself is I can do refactor, and I can change signature, and I can just change this to be S state, like that. And then the vertex consumer provider can become an ordered render command queue, which will be the queue. And then if I refactor that, there we go. And then this will be the block entity render state. This is going to be the same thing. So we're going to do the same thing here. So we're going to do refactor, change signature. That's now going to take in S, which is going to be the state. And then we're going to take in the ordered render command queue, which will be the queue, like that. Okay, and then we refactor. And then that will be the lock entity render state. And then we need to do the exact same thing here. So this will now become S, which will be the state. And then this will be the ordered render command Q, which will be the Q. Okay, now this just needs to take in the state. This needs to take in the state and the Q. This needs to take in the state as well. I think we're going to need to have a base class for our block entity render states. Because they're all going to want a git pos. They're all going to want like a bunch of stuff, right? So I think we can do that fairly reasonably. High contrast, but yeah, that's fine. Okay. Yeah, so back to that, but that's fine. We can come back to that. So let's do S, which will be the state. Now take in the state, and then this is going to take in an ordered render command Q. Boom. Okay. Now this is then going to take in the state. Now let me quickly rename this to block state. That doesn't break anything. And then this will be S state. Once again, cache state, that's going to be, we're going to want that in all of them. Now this doesn't like that, but that does need to take in a ordered render command Q. This is where things get a little bit messy. So yeah, this is gonna be interesting. I don't suppose I can just do q.submit custom, can I? I can. Damn. That's not too bad. I don't know what that guy was faffing in the Discord about. But that's not that bad. Basically the same, to be honest. I'll take that. So state.getPos, that's fine. It doesn't like this because method does not override method from its superclass. Interesting. I assume that's the camera pos, is it? No. Render. It takes in a camera render state, and the tick delta is gone. Interesting. Really? So it now just takes in an S state, a matrix stack matrices, an ordered render queue, and then a camera render state. Ah. Is that gonna cause issues? I imagine that's gonna cause a lot of issues, no? Because I doubt I can get that. But that doesn't need to be the camera state. That does need to be the tick delta. So how are you meant to get the tick delta, I wonder? Interesting. I mean, what we can get it from the client. I don't know that's really the best way to do it though, because we can do float tick delta is equal, yeah, this. Is that not a thing anymore? Really? Wait, how? How is that not a thing. Look through these and just see if there's anything. Maybe it's in like the game renderer or something. Could it be? Render tick counter? You'll get dynamic delta tick? Interesting. I don't know. Which one do I want? Who knows? Okay, how do I get the light and the overlay then? What? I'm just going to quickly have a look through the blog and see if there's anything I've missed anywhere. I don't think I have. Okay, apparently... Okay. Apparently, there is a state.lightmap coordinates. Which is now the light, basically. So... yeah, pretty much those don't need to exist anymore in that case. And for that reason, all of these methods, we can literally just get rid of those. And I'm going to leave the tick... Am I going to leave the tick delta? Yeah, I think so. Let me just have a look and see if there's anything mentioned about tick progress. Yeah, so tick progress just it doesn't seem to be a thing anymore either. It used to be a thing. Let me have a look at something. Let me have a look. Okay. No. Looking. I'm just looking on the Fabric Discord to see if anyone has mentioned tick progress being gone. And I don't think they have. Like at all, which is interesting. Okay. I am curious. So, like maybe we could just get rid of it. I'm trying to think, like, where it's used. So what's this? Set up block entity transformation. Yeah, that just needs to become that one. That'll work. That needs to go as well. Wait, I need to refactor that one first. But yeah, that one can go as well. Let's quickly do that. Change signature. Here we go. So light, poof, overlay, poof, refactor. Refactor anyways. Okay. And we'll probably find most usages of that don't need the light anymore. The problem is if they do need the light. Well, I guess the light isn't the problem. It really kind of is the tick progress that poses an issue. Only thing I'm wondering, maybe this in here, right? So this has so this has update render state, and that actually takes in the tick progress and the camera position even. So what we might want to do is have our own custom render state class and just pass those through to it. And then that means that every single block entity in Industria has those in its state. So I think that's probably is the best way to do that. It just means, yeah, we're gonna have to make a new state class, which is fine. That's fine. I'm actually gonna make a new package even for this, which will be Industria block entity render state. Okay, and that is going to extend block entity render state. And that's not generic. Okay. Okay. So what we'll do is this will need to basically hold that data for us. So I don't know how they recommend doing state. Like, I don't know if there's like, we go to implementations here. We go to like the bell. Okay, so they just make it public. Okay. So we can do that then. That's actually nice and simple. So we can have a public float, which will be tick progress. We can have a public block pos, which will be the block pos. Oh, that is actually in here. So the block pos and the state are in there. The light map coordinates are in there. It's just the actual tick progress for some reason isn't in there. So that's fine then. So that can just be that, right? And then this can just extend Industria. What was it called? Block entity render state. There you go. Okay, so now all of these can just take that in. Thank you, Lone Wolf. You too. Hope you have a wonderful night as well. And then we can hopefully just do states.pods. There you go. So we don't have to call a method even, which is actually kind of fantastic. And this can be the exact same thing here as well. So this will be just state.blockState. So in fact, that just doesn't even need to exist anymore. So that's just going to just be state.blockState. That can be state.blockState. No point making a variable. Even though the compiler would just remove it anyways. I think we'll just avoid that in the first place. So that's fantastic, because that now means that all of these, we can go ahead, we can refactor, change signature, we can get the tick delta and say goodbye, you're not wanted anymore. So refactor. Nice. And we can do the exact same thing here, even though I don't think this method is actually used anywhere, but we can just get rid of that. So boom, refactor, gone. So that's actually a hell of a lot simpler. So I'm not even mad at Mojang for doing this, because that has made everything a lot simpler now. It does mean we're going to have to go through, obviously, refactor everything. It's going to take a while, but we're going to have to do that. Yeah. Okay. I guess let's go one by one. Ugh. Don't worry, I'm yawning so much today. Okay. So the plan in that case, yeah, let's just go one by one. So we'll start at the very top, which is the arc furnace. So the arc furnace doesn't need anything special. So this can just be an Industria block entity render state for now. Obviously in the future that will change, but for now that's what it needs to be. So that will be the queue, and then we'll just get rid of the lights and the overlay. What are we missing? We are missing create render state. Okay. So I think what we'll do in that case is just override that in here. We'll just give it the default one by default. And then we'll go from there. So we'll override create render state, and we'll just return that. And obviously this will give, this could, you know, we want to do suppress warnings unchecked. So obviously that could throw an exception if the class has specified a different states class. But obviously that's kind of not really the problem of this class. That's the problem of the class that is using it. So that's fine. Obviously this one nice and easy because we don't have anything in here yet. Next one is going to be a little bit more complicated. So this one immediately is going to have its own state class. So what we'll do is we are going to go ahead and create a new class, and we're going to call this a centrifugal concentrator block density render state. Now I am already considering using an acronym for this, maybe calling it BURS, right? BURS, block entity render state, maybe, or I could just call it render state. I think that's fairly self-explanatory for what it is. Yeah, I'm just going to use render state, actually. I think that's fine. So this obviously extends Industria block entity render state. And then we need to just store basically everything in here that needs to be in here. So recipe RPM, public float, recipe RPM. We are going to have the progress. Into progress, we're going to have the max progress, which is also going to be 0 by default. Then we're going to have the bowl rotation, which is basically going to exist purely on the client. And then, yeah, everything else just doesn't need to exist. So like this, for example, that can just go. Makes that a little bit simpler. This can just become state dot yeah, we'll get that from the state in a second, because we're just going to need to change that to be of the correct type. So this, for example, that's going to take in that render state class, and then that's going to take that in, and as long as obviously that's a Industria block entity renderer, that will be fine. That is apparently an int. That's true. That is indeed an int. Okay. So in fact, that doesn't even really need to be there. Get rid of that. Data recipe RPM. Okay, lovely. This can just be state dot progress, and this can be state dot max progress. This can be state dot tick progress, and get rid of those. We may need those from the state, but I don't think we will. We don't need those there, do we? Apparently we do need light and overlay there. Check. So it does require light overlay and outline color, and also a crumbling overlay command. Is there one that doesn't, or what? So that does. This one requires a sprite instead. Okay. Yeah, so they do all require light and overlay. For the light, we can still pass that in. So we can still do, I mean, I am curious actually, does it have a, no, okay. So, okay, that's fine. We can use light map coordinates there. And then here we can use state dot crumbling overlay. And then for the actual like overlay itself, I assume we can still just use overlay texture dot default UV. And I suspect that will work. Okay. So render input fluid now needs to just take in, I don't know where that is. Where is that method? Oh, that takes in the entity, but it needs to take in the state like that. Now this does indeed need the sinking fluid storage as well. So let's go into here. And let's do a public. Now, it doesn't actually need to be a sinking fluid storage. It just needs to be a single fluid storage, which is the input fluid tank. Okay. Like that. And then state.getPos becomes state.pos. And everything else is fine. Yeah, so that's gonna be interesting. That's gonna be just world. Nothing special there. Yeah, so I don't know about state.render. I'm really not sure. Maybe what we need to do for this one is to look at item render state, and just see what it does, right? So, I mean, what it does here is it submits item like that. But that just takes in the tints and all of those shenanigans. Because then it just does layer.render, and layer.render basically just does that. I don't know if maybe I need to... I don't know. That's the thing. I don't really know. I mean, okay, let's look at these, for example. So this is shelves, yes. Shelves render items. So do brushable blocks. So let's look at brushable blocks. I'm more interested about that. So that takes... Ah, interesting. So that holds an item render state. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. So where is this used? In here. Okay. So that does super dot update render state. And then it does this dot item model manager dot clear and update. Ah. Okay. Things are starting to connect. Things are starting to make sense. I see. I'm starting to understand, and I'm starting to like this system. I actually think this is genuinely a good change so far. Things may change, but for now, I'm starting to like this. So what I'm going to do in that case is I'm going to make that default render state thing. So this, I'm going to make that just hold one of those anyways, right? So exactly the same as what vanilla does. Just going to hold one of those. Which means that, yes, that's going to be created every single time for every single renderer, but I don't see that being an issue. Like, most of the renderers are going to have that render state, so that's fine. Yeah, I don't see a problem with that, so that's fine. And let's actually override this update render state method inside the renderer. So we are going to go to Industria, block entity renderer. Okay, and this is where it does the state. So we're going to do the same thing here. So update render state. We're going to call that super. That's fine. And then we're also going to set the state to tick progress. And then we're also going to use this dot context dot item model manager dot clear and update. That's then going to take in state dot item render state. Ooh, it does need a stack though. Wait, what is this use for the stack? Oh. Oh. I take it back. This is a shit system. Wait. You have to have a render state for every item you want to render? That can't be right. Really? No. No, that can't be right. That can't be right. Can that be right? I'm a little bit baffled. One second. Go to implementations. So obviously vanilla have... But it has layers. It has layers, so surely that's not the case. Yeah. Yeah, so it has yeah, I see. I kind of see, but I'm also like a little bit baffled here. Yeah, so in terms of rendering it, you don't need to pass that state across. But to actually, I guess that kind of does make sense. So to update the state, you have to have the item that it needs. So like what we could do, best thing to do here is probably leave this in here, but just not update it in the renderer. And the benefit of that would be that, I mean, the annoying thing is we still need to pass this all into here, but I mean, I think that just is what it is. I don't necessarily think that's like an actual issue. Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably fine. I kind of understand that now. So yeah, we're not going to call that then. We are just going to call this one, which I think is fine. I think that's fine. I don't necessarily have an issue with that. So we're just going to leave that in there. And what the centrifugal concentrator will have to do is it will just have to deal with that. It'll have to handle that by itself. Which we're going to have to do anyways, right? So we're going to have to override update render state. We're going to have to call that super. We are going to have to do state.recipe RPM is equal block entity get recipe RPM, state.progress, max progress. We're going to have to do state.input fluid tank is equal get input fluid tank. We're going to have to do state dot bowl rotation. I don't know what we do about bowl rotation. I think we could probably leave that, I imagine. I think that's probably fine. Then we can do state dot item render state, and basically what we do, so I don't think we can do that. Is that a method we can create? I'm just trying to think, what does it actually require? So if we want to, no, how do we do this? No, we need to do item render state dot, wait, what do we do? Oh, I see. Okay. Right. So we need to have an item model manager, which takes in the state, the item. Okay, I see. Okay. So we can kind of do that ourselves. We can kind of make this a little bit easier to do. So like we can make this method. Yeah, okay, so we can do update item render state maybe. We can make that method in here. And this will need to just call the model manager. So if we take in an Industria entity renderer, right? This will just take in the block entity like that. We can have renderer like that. Okay. Then what we can do is we can do renderer. No, so we can do yes, renderer dot I want to get the item model shenanigans. How can we do that? Best way to do that would be in here. So we can have a getter, like a public item model manager, get item model manager, and we just get that from here. So that's public, which means that in here we can do get item model manager, clear and update. That will take in this item render state. Then it needs to take in the stack. So the stack itself, we are actually going to have to go ahead and pass in. I don't think it requires any of those, does it? No, it doesn't. So we need the item stack, the display context. Okay, let's do those for now. Item stack, display context. What else? The held item context and then the seed. So held item context, and then long seed like that. This will be the display context. Okay, so then we just pass all of those in here. So we pass in the stack, we pass in the display context, the block entity dot world, then the held item context, and then the seed like that. Seed is apparently an int. Bit weird, but sure. Okay. Now, I am curious. So, question, what does vanilla pass in for that context? Where is it? Where it updates the... it just passes null. Okay, that's what I thought. So what I will do then is I will just make a copy of this like that, and that will then just call in null and 0 for that, which I think is fine. Okay, and then what I will do is I'll make another overload which will just go ahead and pass in fixed as the display context. Okay, fantastic, lovely. So that just makes that so much easier to use, because now all we have to do is we just have to pass in the renderer, which is this. We have to pass in the block entity and the stack, which we should have all of those very trivially accessible. So in here we have this, the block entity, and then the stack. So the stack is going to be well, currently it's this, but it is going to be this. So let's plonk that in, and this will be the block entity dot get input inventory dot get stack in slot 0. And yeah, let's do that instead of this. This is going to be block entity. Oh, we don't have the block entity. Okay. Interesting. That's fine. So we can just pass that into here, right? So we can have the simple inventory input items, input inventory. Sure. And then we can say state dot input inventory, and yeah, that is just get stack. Nice. And then that needs to be used, so we do state dot render or state dot, how do we do this? State dot item render state dot render, which takes the matrices, then it takes the queue, then it takes the light, which is state dot light map coordinates, then it takes the overlay. Wait, no, this can't be right. Because it passes in the stack, does it not? Wait. Item render state dot render. Oh. Yeah, it is what I thought originally. So, oh, yeah. So the big problem that gives us is we can't choose when we want to render the specific stack. Oh god. Okay, maybe what we could do as an alternative, because I would really like to keep these methods. So maybe instead of having an item render state here, we have an array, or a list, I suppose, even a list of item render state, right? We can even make this list final, right? And that will be equal to a new array list. And then basically what we can then do is we can just pass an integer into here that basically will look it up in this list. Yeah, I think that's the best way to do this. Let's do that. So yeah, okay. So we can have int index as the first parameter, and then we can just do item render state dot get index. Let's rename this to item render states. We can have in here int index. We can have int index like that, and basically that solves our entire problem. So all we have to do after that is we have to have a constructor. I don't know if we actually need to put a super call here, do we? Don't think so. So what we can do in the super call is we can just say this dot item render states dot add a new item render state. And as a matter of fact, we can even make a method to do that, right? So we can just make a public int add item render state, and it just returns that. Actually, it really doesn't need to return an integer. Let's just make it void. I guess we can make it return a boolean, and then it just returns this. Maybe we need that in the future. I don't know. Probably not. But better to have it than not. So then we just call add item render state. Boom. And then in here, wait, how does that solve anyway? Oh, right. Yes. Okay. Because then what we can do is we can render a specific index. So inside, let's go back into the state again real quick. So into the state, into here. Then we can have a public void render item render state. We can have int index, and then we can just take that in. We don't need this though. So what we need is the other parameters that are used. So if we go to here, not this. So this, by the way, will just be 0. So that's fine. So this will just need, this doesn't even need to be there. This can be, so this needs the matrices, it needs the queue, and then it needs, it doesn't need the light map. So it just needs the matrices and the queue. So matrix stack, matrices, and then an ordered render one queue. And then all we have to do is render, passing those in, and then the other parameters as well. So the light is going to be this dot light map coordinates. Then the overlay is going to be overlay texture dot default UV, and then finally the last one is going to be I don't actually know what the last one is. Does it say? So it's after the overlay in here is the outline colors. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's pretty much always going to just be -1, so that's fine. I assume this does the same thing. It just passes -1. Would that be correct? It passes 0. Okay, just to be safe, we'll pass 0. But that's fine. So then all we have to do is we have to do state dot render item render state, pass in the index, which is 0, get rid of this. Boom. That's nice and easy to use now. Now we do still have some problems here because of the light and the overlay. I think we can just get rid of those though. And quite frankly, I guess they kind of need to exist. So instead of it being light and overlay, it should just be that. So that's fine. That basically solves all of those. Okay. That's still fine. That doesn't cause problems. Okay. So that is the first block entity done, I believe. Yeah. That's the first block entity done. And that may have taken a long time, but I'm hoping we've set up enough of a framework with this that it should be a lot simpler for the next ones. In theory. Very much a hypothetical, but in theory. We can actually even remove that. That doesn't need to be there, right? So hopefully this will become easier now as we move to the next one, which is going to be the clarifier. So immediately this is going to be a more complex one than the centrifugal concentrator, because this renders, we have custom quads and rendering and all of those shenanigans. So yeah, this is going to be a complex one. Okay. So yeah, we're going to need, I think we are going to need a custom state for this one, right? Yeah, most certainly. Okay. This is where things might get complicated because this is where I'm trying to mess with some of Basti's code. but okay, it's fine. So we're going to want a clarifier render state, and then let's go into, oh, excuse me, don't you dare. Okay, then we'll create a clarifier render state, which will extend industrial block entity render state. Then we need to figure out what we need. So first of all, let's import that. So you stop complaining. And then let's just plonk it into there and anywhere that needs it. So there will become the state. Figure those out in a second. There will become the state. And there will become the state. And I think that's all of them. Okay, that's not too bad. There's a lot of errors, but that's fine. We can come back to them. So state.getWorld, that just doesn't exist. And this also doesn't need to exist. So this now needs to use the queue. So I don't exactly know how this works, but we submit a model part. And then we use this.model.root part. I think we can actually just submit a model, I think, since we're just rendering the root part. I think we can just submit the model, because I assume that just does the same thing, right? I assume you do the same thing. If you go like here, submit model, presumably. Okay, it is different, but I imagine it does fundamentally do the same thing. It must do. Yeah, I mean, it just must do. It just adds a model command, but model command doesn't tell it what to do, so I don't really know how that works. But I think that's fine. I think we can just But why wouldn't I have done this.model.render before? There has to be a reason I didn't use the render method. Let me have a look at the render method, actually. This one? I didn't even override it, really. Suspicious. I don't know why I didn't do that, but I'm pretty sure I can just use the model. So I'm going to do that. We're going to do this.model. Then we're just going to pass the matrices. Then what do you want? It wants the render layer. Now I think that's going to be this. So we can just pass that in. Then it wants the light and the overlay. So the light is going to be state dot light map coordinates, and the overlay is going to be overlay texture dot default UV. Then it wants the color, which is just going to be 0. Then it wants the crumbling overlay, which once again we can get from the state. And I assume somewhere I've missed the queue. Correct? Oh no, because we're doing queue.submitModel. So what isn't it like then? Because the model doesn't have the state, I'm guessing? Yeah, so the model is a model of void. So this needs to become a model of a clarifier render state. I suspect that causes issues though, so what we can do is, yeah, go back to model parts, I think, and then just use get root part. It still doesn't like that because, oh, that requires it to want a sprite. Ooh, interesting. Okay, in that case we will go back to submit model and we will give that model the clarifier render state, which I think should be fine. I don't imagine that causes an issue. It still doesn't like that though. I'm not sure why. So we have the model, we have the matrices, we have the render layer, we have the light, we have the overlay, we have the outline color, overlay, outline color. Wait, 1 second. Let me zoom out. Why can I not zoom out? Intelligently? Okay, let me minimize some things so I can see more. So we have, let's put it there, and then I can see them all. So we have model. Oh, then it wants the state. Okay, so model, state, matrices, render layer. Okay, yeah, got it. Lovely. This will need to become... I don't think that's necessary. Yeah, maybe that might be necessary. Well, I think we can just get rid of this, actually. Because the state will just basically not have anything in it. So I think that's fine. Let's also clear this up so that can just go. Okay, these don't need to exist anymore. Actually, to simplify things, let's just pass those in. I am kind of considering just saying, like, hey, let's just pass those into on render. Let's do that, actually, because that's going to make my life so much easier. We're going to do that. Okay. So we're going to go to super method. And let's just pass in int light, int overlay. And we're going to pass that into all of these as well. So int light, int overlay. And we're going to pass that into the other, yeah, pre-render. Where's pre-render? Do I not have pre-render? Okay, whatever. Yeah, so on render, we'll just now pass in those. Like that. Likewise. Like that. And now I don't have to worry about that. That's just done. Problem solved. That will become int, that will become int. And then what we can do is we can just do int light, int overlay. Nice. Fantastic. That's much easier. That's actually will save a lot of time. Let's just quickly go ahead and fix that in the two we've already done. So if we go into render, we now have int light, int overlay. And we can pass those down to anywhere that needs it, which I think is just this. So this can just become light, overlay. Lovely. That I think also needs to come into render input fluid. Am I correct? Yes, it does. We can just pass that in there as well. So light and overlay. And then go in here. I have light and overlay. And fix the usages. So this light, overlay. Do that. Okay. I think that's much easier. And then I think that may also need to go into somewhere else, does it? No. No. Wait. No. Okay, that's fine. Okay. I am wondering, can this just be a single submit custom? Like, does this have to be 4? I think it can just be 1, right? I think so. Yeah. Yeah. I think it can just be 1. So what I can do, there's a way to select multiple lines at once, right? How do you do that? There you go. Oh, that didn't work. There we go. Boom. Okay, so then what we can do is just get rid of that, put it into a single one, and then bam, and put a semicolon on the end. That's better. So then that's just a single thing. You don't have to worry about that. I assume that will work. I don't know why that wouldn't work. Presumably it does. So that's fine. Okay. And then also the arc furnace as well does just need that to be passed into here. So int light, int overlay. Boom. Okay, so that's done too. Then all of these need to be solved. So these just need to take in an ordered render queue instead of the thing they had before. So let's just go ahead and fix all of those methods to do that. Boom. Nice. Okay, that's all of them. So then we'll just have to fix everywhere that mentions that. Output current stack, so it doesn't like this, but that's because that doesn't have the clarifier render state, which it does need to have. Yeah, and then we're going to have to go and fix some of these as well, which will be a whole thing. Okay. Okay, we are coming to the end of the stream here, but I am going to try and push on to the very end, so till 10 o'clock. So that is 19 minutes. I'll try and get some more of these done. It's just going to be a very boring, repetitive process, but it needs to be done. So how are we going to do this one? So this one needs to have an output inventory. It needs to have a next output item stack. Interesting. Okay, let's kind of go across these as we see them. Okay, let me try to think of the best way to show this for you guys. I'm going to move the renderer to my other class because I'm going to be typing in this one. So what we'll have is we will have, let's have the constructor first of all. And then let's do add item render state, which I think will be the output, but we'll see in a minute. We're also going to want a public item stack, which will be next output stack, which is equal to item stack dot empty, rather than having to worry about that being null. Okay, the next one is going to be the progress. So we're going to have a public int progress and a public int max progress. Okay. Then we are going to have, let's see what the next one is. The next one is the input fluid tank. So we can have a public single fluid storage, which is the input fluid tank, and then we're going to have the output fluid tank as well, Okay. And that's actually it. So that's not too bad. Yeah, that's not too bad at all. Okay. So now we just have to go through and we have to fix all of these. So this just doesn't need to exist. But what we can do here is we can say if state dot wait, what did that do? Get output inventory dot get stack. Okay. So if we do state dot output. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Dot get 0. It is empty. Yeah. Okay. We are making big progress, Wide. We are, well, I am starting to properly understand things. Yeah, I'm starting to grasp a hold of how this all works. Kind of. Apparently not for this one, though. Okay, I think what we're going to have to do for this one, actually, because that's not going to work. We are actually going to have to store the inventory itself in the state. Which is fine. It's fine. It's just a little bit annoying. So we have to have a simple inventory, which will be the output inventory. Like that. Yeah, and then what we can just use is the output inventory. But inventory. So get stack. For that and for that. Rendering item though is going to be a little bit different. Oh, so actually, interesting thing. By default, it looks like this is actually none, usually. Now, I am curious, in the centrifugal concentrator, what did we have in there? That's the model. Let's go to the renderer. Centrifugal concentrator. I can't find it. There. Nope, that's the block entity. Maybe one of the ones where I can't see the name. This one? Yes. What did I have in here? I had... I don't know, I can't find it. I had none. Okay. Okay, that's good. Can you run the game yet? No. Definitely not. Not even close. We are very far away from that. Very, very far away. Though I think most, like 99% of the errors left, if not all of them, are to do with the block entity renderers. So it's actually not too bad in reality. It's kind of all just the same thing, to be honest. Which, you know, it is what it is. So yeah, what we want to do in here is we want to do state.render item state, pass in that 0 index, pass in the matrices and the queue. So that's nice and easy. This one is going to be state.next output stack, and I'm not going to make that a variable. There's just simply no need. Then this is going to be state.progress, and this is going to be state.maxProgress, like that. And then here, all we're going to do is we're going to do... Oh, this one's going to be interesting, huh? Okay, actually, so in that case, we need to add another item render state. It might be nice if... Okay, that's fine for now. I might come back to that in the future. and do that a little bit differently. But for now, that's fine. What we will do is we will just have to pass in 1 as the index here. But I think I'm going to change that in the future. In fact, I'm going to change it now, because otherwise I'm going to completely forget and never do it in the future. So what I want to do is, instead of having this shenanigans, I'm just going to have the constructor require you to pass in a item render state count. And what that will do is just add them all. So that will just do that. And then that way, what I can do in here, instead of having this silly shenanigans, I just pass in 2. And then in the state here, I can just pass in 1. Because most of the block entities are going to have an item inventory. Like, they just are. So I don't see a point in doing that any other way. That's just a little bit easier for us. This will just be the input fluid tank. Once again, I don't really need that to be a variable though. It just doesn't need to be, even though that makes the line longer. That's fine. Ooh, haha. Oh dear. Okay. This one might be... No, this is fine. This is fine. This is fine. Stop worrying, people. It's fine. Because we can just use submit custom. Boom. How do you use submit custom again? Oh yeah, like this. Oh, the problem is it does need the render layer. Ooh, that's... Oh, it also needs the actual specific consumer. Oh dear. Make custom. Can I just use this one? Layered custom? Can I use that? How do I use that? Let's try and find out how to use that. That takes in buffers, hash, render pass. Ugh. I don't like this. Oh god. Okay. Right. Oh dear. Okay. Okay. What we're gonna have to do in that case is we're gonna have to refactor how this method works. Oh god. Hey. So what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to go into this one and then into this one. And then in here, what we can do is once we've got the render layer and I think the vertex consumer, right? Because if we do q.submit custom, we need the matrices, the render layer, and then the function. So actually we only need the render layer, so that's not too bad. So what we can do is once we have the render layer, then we can take the queue, right? So this will need to take in a queue instead of the vertex consumer. So this will be an ordered render queue. And then all we need to do is do q.submit custom. That will take in the matrices, and then it will take in the render layer, and then we have our function, which gives us the vertex consumer. So we don't need to do that because we have the vertex consumer. The problem will be the light. I mean, that should be final, no? Okay, sure. I guess we'll make those final. I assume something else. Oh. Oh, it's saying it was already final. Right. Oh wait, no, it's not. So that needs to be like that. This will need to become int new light. Like that. This one needs to still use light. Then that just means that that uses new light there. Now the problem, this will still be a problem. So that's the fluid color. So all we have to do to fix that one is make that fluid color final as well. And then just do that. And I think that basically works. So actually still doesn't like that fluid color. Oh, because that's the fluid color, not... Oh. Okay. Ugh, I hate this, but I'm gonna have to do an int new fluid color like that, and then I'm just gonna have to pass in new fluid color, which is yucky, but yeah. And unless I use an array or like an atomic integer, which I don't really want to do. It's not the end of the world, it's just a little bit janky. So yeah, all this will now require is the queue. And then instead of the world and the pos, well, we still need the world and the pos, but the world will now just be Minecraft client.getInstance.world, and then the pos will be state.pos, right? Now, this obviously is going to error with the queue, so we just need to make sure all of these have the queue instead of the consumers, basically, which is fine. That's not really a problem. We'll deal with those other ones in a second, because those are going to be a pain. It's going to be very similar, but it's going to be a pain. But yeah, we'll deal with those when time presents itself. Okay, so I think we are almost about to wrap it up for the stream, though. Hopefully we can at least finish this one first. So state.output fluid tank. So then we'll just get rid of that line completely and do that. Boom, 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 boom. This will need to become the same thing. So this will need to be the queue. This will need to be Minecraft client. Yeah, nice. And this will be the same thing. This will be the queue. Nice. That one's... Oh, that one's not going to work. This one also won't work if I ever want to uncomment that. So let's use Minecraft client dot get instance dot world. It might be nice to make that a variable, actually, because we're using it a couple times. So we can just do world there. No point doing a client world, that's just unnecessary. And I'm going to put that up here, and then I can just replace that in this comment. I'm probably going to uncomment this at some point and put it in a like debug flag, but for now that's fine. This, is there any way I can do this right now? Don't think so, unfortunately. I mean, we're just talking like many layers deep at this point. I mean, maybe like the ones that require a vertex consumer are actually fine. those are the easy ones because we can just wrap that method call itself in what we need. So those ones aren't really the issue. Like this one, for example, that's fine. That's not even going to have to be changed. This one, yeah, that's going to have to obviously become that and that, and that will come Q. And then yeah, so basically here all that needs to happen is we just wrap this, right? So we actually get rid of that line completely and instead just do q.submit custom like that. And then we just have to do the same kind of stuff we did before. So I think we already have the entry, right? The entry is this, so that's fine. That can be light, that's fine. We just have to make that final. I think we had to make something else final as well, but this needs to be int new fluid color, and for that reason we'll just pass that in there as well. This needs to be int new light, which I really don't like, but not much I can do about it. Yeah, that's fine, and then that fixes that one, so that's not a problem anymore. And like this is fine because that can just be called in here and that doesn't cause us any problems. So yeah, that's actually the clarifier done. Wow, this isn't too bad. Genuinely, this is not too bad. I'm probably going to get the rest all done off stream between now and tomorrow, I think, because I think I'm going to stream tomorrow. Yeah, I'm going to stream tomorrow as well. And hopefully this will all be done by then. I suspect I will probably face other issues somewhere else. But for now, this is fine. I mean, like this one, for example, like this is trivial to fix, right? Kind of the most complex thing here. I mean, this will need to become state.progress, and likewise with all of these. This will need to become state.blockState. And then this will just get wrapped in a render custom or submit custom. So that's trivial. This really is not too bad. I thought updating was going to be hell, but like it's not. It's actually pretty fine. Other than the rendering stuff, is there much else to do? No, that's it. As far as I'm aware, the rendering stuff is all that is left. We can do a build here, and we should be able to see. Yeah, all rendering. Everything is rendering. The only other thing is key bindings, but that'll be easy. That'll take like a couple minutes at most, because that's a very small change. Yeah, that's it. And then after that, I then have to update to 1.21.11, but I don't think, I'm actually not completely sure, I don't think that's gonna require much work. Let me quickly have a look at the Fabric blog and just have a look, but I'm pretty sure it's not anything major. Yeah, so the major changes in 1.21.11 are with game rules. That's it. That's actually it. Yeah, that's it. The only changes are with game rules. So, and there's a few API things, like with biomes, but I don't have any biomes. And packet splitters are introduced and recipe syncers. So we'll probably have something like that later down the line, but like, yeah, that won't be a problem at all. And then I'll update to Mojmap, but that shouldn't be too bad either, because there's a script you can run to just do that easily. So that shouldn't be a problem. Whether I use the script though, I might not use the script, well, I probably will actually. But like, yeah, I probably will. But it'd be nice to remember them all. It's just not going to happen. But yeah, I am going to go ahead and end the stream here. As I said, I will be streaming tomorrow, as long as my throat is still alive. It's been better today, so it should be fun. But yeah, I will be streaming tomorrow, same time, 7 PM UTC. So I will see you all then. Good. Bye.